Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Michael, aka Victor here. Got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time, so we'll get right into it. So we'll just recap what's been happening. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope everybody's out there staying safe and everything. Got a few things I want to touch on. We're just gonna keep everything high level from now on. It's gonna be pretty much high level. Yeah, we can get into the weeds and the details if you wish, but the idea is to make the conversation simple, make the topic simple. But just know that as we talk at the tip of the iceberg, there is a lot of data and information and stuff below to support it. But we're just talking about the top here. So as a recap, and this was a question that was presented to me, is they didn't understand it. So the idea is to again make it simple. So the whole premise of this is we are human beings, and this is the way I explained it to that person, right? So we are human beings. This is the physical part, and this is the non-physical part, right? So human being. The non-physical part, you can call it a soul, a spirit, or your consciousness, whatever name you want to give it, is the immortal, is the immortal part of yourself. And you can look at the definition of soul spirit, we talk about that as well. But it is the non-physical, immaterial part of yourself. But this part of you, this being part of you, is the actual true you. This human part of you, as we equate it to our persona or character. This is the character that we're playing inside of this matrix. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So we experience birth, we experience death, but we are immortal beings that experience all of that, just like we experience time. And I gave the example to them. Look in the mirror, right? Just use this example for yourself. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, the consciousness that's looking in the mirror, how much did it age over your life? However many birthdays you had since you incarnated, that's how many birthdays you had, and you've witnessed your body age, but did your consciousness age? Yeah, it gained more experience, yet it had the experience of living this persona ego, but did it age? It's just a thought experiment. So we were talking about that, and she said it made it a little clearer, but we're going to have a Q&A on Sunday at 7 p.m. That's why I want to clear all of this up, because it is getting a little cluttered. And we'll go over the 100-degree challenge, and some people are taking it. I got one cat that said, you talking about something, now you're talking. So we're going to try to add a little humor, because this is a stressful time, so we got a lot of stuff to get into. But okay, we wanted to get through that. So the reason why this is suppressed and why you're not seeing this on the mainstream news is because this goes against a lot of belief systems, right? Because when we're here, we don't remember all of this. This is something this is inner work that we have to do. This is remembering, this is deprogramming what we've been taught when we were young by this matrix, by these belief systems that we come in. It's indoctrination that we go through. They don't let us know this aspect of ourselves. They just keep us down here in this lower aspect of ourselves, right? And a lot of these belief systems, when they do look at people that do extraordinary things or access higher aspects of themselves, they try to build these religions around them and try to deify them as if they're the only ones that can do this. When even when you look at their works, they say you can do it as well. So when I was illustrating this, that being, that spirit, that source, that divinity that you are, I was just saying when you look at other people, they're that as well. And they may not know that, and they may just be acting on this lower level. And this is really a sleep state. This can be run by the artificial intelligence, which is the ego, right? It can be run on autopilot, if you will. And that's kind of the reality that we were in. Now we're in a flux where we're creating a new reality, and that new reality is going to have this foundation of self-knowledge, of knowing thyself built into it. So it's going to be upgraded when we do land to it. And that's why I want to have that balance, because I want to give you information. It's hard to find good information nowadays, but I also want to be realistic and be upfront about what I see as potentials. Because to think about, we talk about social distancing here, talking about shelter in place, flatten the curve. These words are now commonplace, right? 2 years ago, these didn't exist. The world that was happening before this is not going to exist. The new one is created now, but we have to be an active part of that, because believe it or not, there are opportunities to have a police state, if you will. And this could be a reason for it. And this is why I asked that question, and you can help me on this. So we're talking about the coronavirus here. And I get to my mission in a little bit. And we talked about foundation. I'm just trying to go through this list. Talked about the 100-degree challenge. All right, and this is the balance part, because this is a question I want to ask you, because I'm looking at this as well, and it's, again, I said it's hard to get information, but right now when I looked at it, the worldwide deaths are 59,000, right? Worldwide deaths 59,000 from the coronavirus. Because I had someone tell me today, I say it's just a bad flu, and I didn't agree, and they could see it in my eyes, and they were like, "Well, you don't agree, do you?" But I didn't want to go into the other detail and make it a longer conversation. But I don't think it's more to it than just being a bad flu. But we'll just look at the numbers, right? So 59,000 deaths right now. Now, the 2019 flu in just the US had 58,000 deaths. We're just comparing here, okay? And the biggest killer out of all of us, right, is a heart disease, which is 640,000 deaths, in the US per year, right? So are we really that concerned? Are we really shutting everything down because 59,000 people died? We didn't care about 640,000 people dying in the US, right, every year. We're not saying stay 6 feet away from a cheeseburger, right? We didn't shut down everything for that. And then you go back about 100 years ago, 1918, you had the Spanish flu, and that killed 17 million people. So that just gives you an idea of the scale here. So that's what I wondered, for the scale. And I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying it's not something that we should wash our hands. I get into wash hands and stuff in a little bit. But the scale at which things are shutting down, and some of these things are not going to be back up. And also be aware that the powers that you give the government or that the government takes, in general, they keep those powers. And they have a lot of power now, and more power of surveillance to keep you in place. And they're going to use this coronavirus to implement more control. They've already done it. So just be aware of that. So I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, but just be aware of what's happening. Just be aware. All right. So enough of that, because there is a silver lining to this, and we have a silver lining here. Before I get to that, we'll talk about the hand washing. So I'm going to mess his name up. His name is Ignaz Semmelweis, and I'm sure you can Google that. But this is back in 1848, right? Talking about washing hands. So this guy was basically ridiculed by the scientific talk about belief system. This is the scientific belief system. He was ridiculed by the scientists and by the doctors of his time for saying, "Hey, you kind of reduce this purple fever if you guys wash your hands." And he actually has some research that's showing that, hey, these deaths that were happening in childbirth did not happen because of what I'm talking about. You need to wash your hands. You're going from dealing with dead people to delivering babies. You need to wash your hands. They weren't doing that, and there was mortality involved. And he was showing the data, and they were like, "Well, you can't explain your data. It goes against this belief system that us scientists and us doctors have." And they felt like, "I don't need to wash my hands," But anyway, long story short, the data came out, and they understood it, and they knew, and they had to change their belief system. So that exists in science too. And that's just something about washing our hands, because we should have been doing that anyway. But I think there's more to the story. And I'd like to see your comments and feedback. And thanks to the people watching, liking, and all that stuff. You'd be surprised. As much as I post on social media now, I really don't spend much time on there. On the back end, but I'm going to spend some time to do that. So I appreciate your attention on that. And that was the story about washing the hands. And again, back then, 1848, the scientific method, or not scientific method, some of the things they were doing in the medical profession were bloodletting and stuff like that. So that's what was in. And washing your hands, no, we're not going to do that, but we'll cut you and let you bleed out, And again, belief systems, right? And that was scientific in that day. But we're not even going to go there. Alrighty, so I hope I explained everything I wanted to and try to keep this short. I feel like I'm leaving something out, but we're going to have this Q&A. And I appreciate those that are looking, watching. Oh, mission. Yeah, let's get to the mission. So, my mission, and I just want to recap that, as the spiritual being having a human experience, to come here, document it, as I'm documenting it now, to show you and the rest of us that are not aware of this on the level that we can be, that it is at least possible. 100-degree challenge is to show it's at least possible. If I put a dot here, is that possible? All right. Now, if I tell you that there's gold beneath you, and you have to dig, the question is it there? You have to dig, you have to find out, you have to find the truth yourself. Since this is an internal journey, you have to dig as well, but you have to find it yourself. This is something that is a self-realization. There's other things involved as well to help raise your vibration to help mitigate that gap. But all in all, It's an internal thing. And we'll talk about ways to relax and stress and some of the things that we can do. But again, I was going to talk about the silver lining with this isolation thing, is that we are spending a little more time together. I saw some things out there that were heartwarming to see, like kids playing outside. I haven't seen that in a while. It's quieter outside. You got families together. So the social media is actually playing a part right now, keeping us connected. And we're actually doing it in more genuine ways now when it does happen. And yeah, we're still goofing off and all of that stuff. But part of the mission is to inject this, speaking of coronavirus, a virus into this matrix. So when you Google vikterbang, this is what it is. This is in Google and this is in Facebook. And these are the same people that are sharing our information. So we're using their network as part of the solution. And if they're part of the solution of raising the consciousness, they should be down with that. If not, then I'd like to know why. All right, y'all. Appreciate it. Peace.